So that it's up to them to identify where, because they're already into a context of mixed signals. One thing I wanted to show you before it got too late is that this Boule, in fact, picks their people and makes their people leaders. And this is from the book on the Rockefeller family. And this is in the index, in the footnote on page 424. It talked about how Whitney Young wouldn't come against the Rockefellers at the Charlottesville massacre. And this talks about how the Rockefellers do most of their Boule leaders. Junior had maintained, as Junior Rockefeller, had maintained the contact with black organizations begun with his involvement in Tuskegee, Hampton, Spelman, and other southern colleges at the turn of the century. For a time, he had token donations of some $500 a year to the NAACP. However, in '38, his philanthropy advisor, Arthur Packer, wrote a letter to Rockefeller questioning the future of this relationship because he was upset that the NAACP was insisting on trying to push an anti-lynching bill. So Rockefeller wasn't going to give up money because they were punching anti-lynching. Packard regarded this as radical, too radical for the Rockefellers to be involved in, but recommended a continuation of the annual donation nevertheless. Abrupt termination of the $500 gift might be regarded as a rebuke and would carry in the possibility of some kind of controversy. This is the source. At the same time, as NAACP filed Rockefeller Family Archive. At the same time, he was concerned about the radical program of the NAACP. However, Packard was enthusiastically behind the program of the Urban League, beginning with their support of the organization in the 1920s. The Rockefellers were contributing nearly 35% of the league's budget by 1940, and were deeply involved in the internal affairs and management. After returning from the Army, Winthrop Rockefeller, who went to Arkansas, became governor, went on the league's board of trustees, and in 1952 contributed $100,000 towards a permanent headquarters. When Winthrop left for Arkansas and the league began to drift, the Brothers Fund, that's Rockefeller Brothers Fund head Dana Creel, searched for someone to take over the leadership role. This is Rockefeller looking for someone to run the Urban League. Creel wrote Winthrop, "I have had several talks with Lindsey Kimball about the Urban League situation and the possibility of going on the board to see what he could do from the inside. 1, to strengthen the board, sharpen the possibility, and redirect the program. 3, help in the selection of Granger Lester's aging white director of the league's successor." Urban League files, Rockefeller Family Archives. Kimball, who became chairman of the league's board, had heard Whitney Young speak in 57 Sociology Convention. Then a professor at Southern Negro College, Young had reached the top of his profession. He had reached the top of his profession. He had little or no hope of being hired by a northern school. He was receptive to Kimball's suggestion that he belonged in the action arena. Here's a white man said, "Look, nigga, you belong in the action arena." Kimball then arranged for both Young and his wife to receive a 2-year general education. That's Rockefeller. That became the Rockefeller Foundation. General Education Board Fellowship for postgraduate work at Harvard. Meanwhile, he persuaded Granger to step down, softened the blow by a grant for a 2-year traveling fellowship from the Rockefeller Foundation. With Granger out of the picture, Kimball installed Young as Urban League's executive director. It says, in the next decade, Young, who had joined King, Wilkins, and Farmer as the movement's big four, would raise the league's budget from $325,000 to $6 million, making it the country's blue chip civil rights organization. And it goes on to tell you that Rockefeller gave most of that money. That's the creation of a Boule. It isn't just that they were trained in those Negro schools of which most presidents are Boule, but the fact that for doing that, they would be picked and put in places, and that picking and putting was the authority of the whites. One other thing I need to show you here is that in the past, the Boule has been mentioned in the black press. This is the main black paper, the Washington Afro-American, talking about Epsilon Boule, talking about a nice big dinner, naming the names, and they had filet mignon and all the trimmings, and it was at the J.W. Marriott Capitol Ballroom a week before Christmas. It's that, but it just shows that the black press knew of the organization. But their writing on the organization has been puff pieces like this. Continued success to all members of the area Boule, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and to others throughout the nation. That's the Washington, D.C. paper, the Afro-American. Here's the Amsterdam News, a very aggressive black newspaper in New York. Here's a Boule dinner there, with the Sigma Pi Phi and thanking the families and listing the names. Again, my suggestion is that the black press has known and has never told. And the reason that they've never told is that many of those founding members of the various black presses are Boule families. And that's in a lot. Yes, brother.
I didn't want to talk because I wanted to throw that in when we were talking about all that survival thing. But for the brothers that are real hardcore and want to be up on some things, you need to get a copy of the Army Field Manual mapping book. That's the name of it. Official training manual teaches you how to navigate the Earth with a lens-guided compass, just like the lens on the camera. Lens-guided compass. One good book you'll need, and another good book you'll need is the Alchemist Cookbook. You get these at survival stores. Teach you all the little neat tricks. These are the particular tools that all the mercenary groups throughout the world train with. The reason they use the Army Field Manual and Map and Contour book is that that's the standard. The U.S. Army's been at it a while, and that's the best book you can get on the subject. Also, they have these urban guerrilla units out in their base of operation out here in Monterey, California. That's the U.S. Army. These boys didn't come out doing the ride. They wear black suits, black berets, and they're kind of relaxed, and you know, that 35 Ken is not there. You know, that neat cut military look. Matter of fact, they're taught to look relaxed, not the shades and all that. But they want to use them during the day. They have to. They're not military personnel. They're
right.
All spook units.
And I can show you that that those various units are being told now to move into communities. They're taking simple positions as grocery store baggers, crossing guards, traffic coordinators. And I'm going to tell you something. Just yesterday, for the first time, I saw one of them damn streets with them cameras over the intersection. Y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves. They're going to whip that on every nigga in the country because you let it happen to you. You're the only city in the country with cameras over the intersections. And it shouldn't be no night. You shouldn't be throwing rocks up there trying to bust the damn lenses. This is unheard of. What you say, brother? They got what? Antennas.
Remember the antennas that were next to the not microwave, I don't know what they are. Low frequency probably? Changes attitude.
Right, they can change behavior, right. Some erratic behavior could come from signals. Hold on, I'm going to get you. And that's interesting. But I just make that suggestion. That's too deep. That's too deep that somebody, and they're dropping them up there one at a time, not all in the same neighborhood. Put one in one neighborhood, then put one 3 miles away, then come back to your next, maybe 2 months later, come a block later. Yeah. And that's just not a good precedent.